There was always like that house that you went to for a slumber party. And it was like, you could do whatever you wanted. Like you could eat whatever you wanted. You could stay up however late you wanted. You could watch whatever you wanted on TV. And like, you were like, where are their parents here?
It was the 80s, Katie. Nobody cared.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Gen X podcast.
Podcast hosted by two childhood best friends dedicated to the pop culture that raised us.
I'm Cate, a writer, a midwife, a current day pop culture know-nothing, but nobody puts baby in a corner when it comes to the pop culture of my youth.
And I'm Lori, a writer and pop culture lover who's still not over how my so-called life left us hanging.
You guys, we're coming to you from our very own slumber party to discuss slumber parties.
We're coming to you from an Airbnb in Palm Springs in our mismatched jammies to recount the best and worst slumber party experiences of our young lives.
I have to say, though, I am not in mismatched jammies. My jammies match because I bought them special for this trip.
Okay, they do match. Mine don't. Although we are both wearing Pride jammies and we did not plan it.
We didn't. Nope. But it is Pride Month. So happy Pride, y'all.
Happy Pride. We're here in our rainbows and we are looking fierce and fine. I look mismatched, but that's okay. You look super adorable.
Anyway, before we get into the truth or dare of it all, we'd like to remind you to rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Your reviews matter and help cool kids like you join the pod party. Speaking of party, welcome to our slumber party. You know what, you guys, I don't know if you caught it. Maybe I'll add it to our Instagram like highlights, but I'm trying really hard to be a proper historian for this little pod getaway. I think Kate's kind of annoyed with me about it because I'm like, hold on. I got to capture it for the gram. But sometimes you got to capture it for the gram.
Yeah, I feel like this is where my Gen X-ness really shines through, where I'm like, why are we doing this?
I don't know if you remember this, Cate. Back in high school, when we were thespians, I was the historian.
You were. Was I vice president? Was I president?
Oh, probably. I don't know. It just seems like you would hold an executive office.
I was president or vice president, or possibly 1 year one and the other year another one. I don't know.
I don't remember.
I did get the honor of best thespian.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I never got that. But I was the historian and I took that job really seriously. So, you know.
And clearly you still do.
Kind of tracks.
Whereas I am the president of the podcast. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
Self-appointed. That might make me the dictator of the podcast.
Well, you are clearly the George Michael of the podcast. The public has spoken.
Right. Thank you, adoring fans. Thank you.
Oh my God. I was going to tell you, it doesn't really feel good to be the Andrew Ridgeley of this podcast, but I don't actually think that's true. I feel like, I have some mad respect for Andrew Ridgeley these days. So I kind of feel like kindred spirits with him.
There would be no Wham if there were no Andrew Ridgeley.
This is true. And actually on the drive to Palm Springs in my new Subaru Outback.
This is not a sponsored post, but it could be.
It could be, which has a Untitled Gen X podcast sticker on it. We were listening to some Wham over Boy George's Navigation on Waze.
It was very 80s.
Yeah, I mean, the music matters. So, but we're not here to talk about music today. We are here to talk about slumber parties because we're having one. Although right now we are actually in separate rooms of the house because we can't figure out how to cut out the echo when we're seated
when we
together.
Are in the same room together because we want separate tracks. We don't want to share a microphone.
No, we don't. But like the whole point of the slumber party between us, Katie, was to like be able to see each other's faces. We don't live in the same state. Like you live in the Pacific Northwest. I live in Southern California. And I was like, oh, it's so great to be across a table from you to be able to do this and see your face. But no, we're back to Zoom looking at each other on a screen.
Even though we're like really in reality, like 50 feet apart, but there's like walls and doors between us.
Yeah. And I'm in a room with some bunk beds and I'm sitting on the floor.
And she's on the floor.
I'm not really very comfortable.
Because I was like, I flew on a plane today, so I'm not sitting on the floor.
This is true. And like, hey, that's how it goes with slumber parties. I can't tell you how many times I've had to sleep on a very uncomfortable floor in an uncomfortable
Right.
situation at a
And you
stranger's
get like the
house.
bad spot that like
Yeah.
everybody else has like carved out like great spots. And you're like, oh, I'm over by like the brick fireplace, like
Right.
half like shoved up against it. I
It's
hope I
true.
don't roll over and knock myself out in my sleep.
Or like stub my toes, something awful. I said at a
Right.
stranger's house earlier. Yeah, no, I never did a slumber party at a stranger's house. I don't know
Wait, have
why I
I
said
ever
that.
done a slumber party at a stranger, like not a stranger's house, but like somebody you didn't
Like a
know
friend of
really
a friend.
well?
Well, maybe I
I don't think
no.
so though.
But slumber parties are weird, right? Because it's like, sure, the girl, the hostess of the slumber party, but you don't know all of her friends. So, like, if she has friends from sports or friends from church or friends from the neighborhood that you don't know, they don't go to your school or whatever, or even a family member, like, it's weird to be in this very intimate setting with people you don't know.
Right. And it's also weird, even if you're the host, because, right, like when we were little, you didn't go to my
I
school.
didn't.
And then I often would have like the people on my softball team, we would do
Yeah.
slumber parties. And like, so it's weird to have your worlds intermingle like that. You're like, these are my softball people. These are my neighborhood people. These are my school people. And now they're all together in one room and it's weird.
Well, as a child of divorce, I feel like that's not an unfamiliar feeling. I'm not going to say it's ever comfortable, but like, okay, this is this family. This is this family. Now we have to like mingle together because somebody's getting married or, I'm graduating and now we all
Right.
are all here. And yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess slumber parties prepare us for this.
Be a child of divorce. Yeah. To live in an unfamiliar and new space.
And maybe sometimes be uncomfortable there because you don't have a good room.
Sleeping on the floor. Yeah.
Right.
So, do you remember how old you were when you attended your first slumber party?
I don't. I feel like it was probably with like us neighborhood girls, don't you think?
Oh, I do. I mean, I think from a young age, we were always kind of sleeping at each other's houses. But in
Right.
terms of like an actual,
Like
like,
a big one, you mean?
yeah, like with
Like
more
a
than just the
proper
neighborhood
one.
girls. Yeah. With like proper snack, like a designated thing with invitations, for an
Yeah.
occasion.
I definitely have a picture of a slumber party that I had. And I'm trying to think of how old I was in that picture. Maybe I was 7. And it was a proper slumber party.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't surprise me if the first slumber party I like went to was my own, because I just feel like my mom was not super trusting of other
Yeah.
families.
Yeah. No, I mean,
So
I get it. I remember being at a slumber party. I don't know how old I was. I feel like maybe I was about 8 years old or something. And I had to get up in the middle of the night to pee, as one does. And it's so scary to be in an unfamiliar space trying to find your way around. And you're trying not to step on bodies that are sleeping like around
and
you.
like, oh my God, did you ever like run into the dad in the middle of the night? I mean, it probably
Oh
wasn't the middle of the
no.
night, right? It was probably like, a decent time, but like I can remember like getting up to go to the bathroom and like nothing like weird happened. It's just like all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's this like adult man that like I don't know, and I'm in my PJs.
It's so awkward.
It's,
It was
yeah,
probably just as awkward for him, to be like, "Oh, hi, stranger child."
my
Like,
strange
the bathroom's
girl
over
in
here.
my room.
So I came across in doing research for this. Yes, I did research for it. I came across this article by Alina Mansfield of the University of Oregon. It was an academic paper and it's called Slumber Parties as Rites of Passage. This is what she said. Through slumber parties, girls collectively initiate and stage their own ritual transformation by confronting the supernatural in ways characteristic of the liminal stage of a rite of passage. Through these playful but serious rites, girls gaze into a mirror of self and culture and begin to divine their own futures. What are your thoughts about slumber parties as a rite of passage?
Yeah, I think they're totally a rite of passage. And I think they're yeah, I agree with like everything she said in that statement. Like I think it really is a time feel like especially like the later middle school slumber parties, like
Oh, yeah.
7th and 8th grade, because I feel like that's when you're like really starting to cross that threshold from child to adolescent and
In that Margaret phase.
right. And you're starting to be interested in things that like you don't necessarily want to talk to your family about.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you have these friends, but you're like everybody kind of has different levels of knowledge and you're all kind of trying to figure it out together.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I think a lot of the games that are played and the, sneaking out that happens, like it's this sort of weird time where you're like establishing like yourself as separate from your parents.
I would agree with that. In fact, because I went to a private school, I just didn't have access to a lot of information about like sex, and even like certain pop culture wasn't really on my radar as a young person. At a slumber party, that was the first time I was introduced to MTV. And
Mm-hmm.
I saw my first music video, which was Van Halen's Hot for Teacher. And I remember like, what? Like it just blew my mind. And I remember I also saw Madonna's Material Girl, and we did our first episode on that. And I saw Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer. And it's so interesting to not really have that stuff around you and then see it on something as cool as MTV. These people had cable in addition to all the good snacks. But it was like, oh, wow. So that was just like kind of part of it, part of the pop culture end of it. And then also getting to see movies that I wasn't allowed to see. Like we saw Poltergeist. The irony, right? Of going to
Whose parents let their kids have a
well, it was
sleepover
a
and watch
slumber party,
Poltergeist.
So we saw Poltergeist, and that, of course, scared the living crap out of me. But it was like, that's not something that we watched at my house. And of course, now today, maybe parents are sort of like, is your child sensitive? Can they watch this movie? How do you feel about it? Like, I feel like we treat these things a little more gingerly now, as parents. But they really didn't in the 80s. And so it was like, nobody asked if anyone had a nut allergy. Like nobody asked if there was something like a gun in the house. Nobody asked like, what will they be viewing? It was just like, okay, go to their house. They seem like nice people. Go have fun. And that's how that was. And I'll tell you, like, I learned so much about pop culture, making out with boys, about bras and periods and stuff like that from slumber parties.
Right. Because, you talk about those things. And
I mean, some of these girls had older sisters, and it was like, what do you know? Tell me all the secrets. I don't have an older sister. I don't know this stuff. What do you know?
Slumber parties are weird. And and then there's always the person who falls asleep first. Right?
Okay, that was often me, which, I mean, we can go back to this, but like, because I was often the person that fell asleep first, I can't tell you how many times my bra was frozen. Did that ever happen to you? That was like the funny joke that you played on someone, which always really pissed me off.
I remember people like talking about that, but I don't think we ever actually did it.
That happened to me like 3 times. Did I have a target on my head? I was just tired.
I was actually often one of the last people to fall asleep. Like I was often like the one laying there awake. Like, well, maybe that's why I would like run into the dads because I'd be like, I'm awake. Or like maybe I didn't run into them, but like they'd get up and like go into the kitchen for something. And I'd be like, oh, there's a grown up and I'm still awake. Oh no.
Pretend to sleep.
Right. And then I have this funny, as you know, because you've known me for a very long time, I have this funny thing that I do when I sleep, and I have done it my entire life. And it's that I moan.
I know. Okay. So we're not sharing a bedroom at this Airbnb, thankfully. I might fall asleep first, but I am a light sleeper.
And I know that I moan because when I was young and I would go to slumber parties, when I was like in middle school, people would be like, what were you dreaming about last night? And I was like, nothing. Why? And I have since then, like, if I'm really tired, you know how you're really tired and you like sort of drift off to sleep, but you're like kind of asleep and kind of awake.
Yeah.
And I have like woken myself from that state, hearing myself moan. Good times.
The best times. Okay, so Generally, slumber parties follow a formula. And one aspect of this is the supernatural. It's like a really big part of slumber party folklore. And there's just something about getting together with a group of girls and like trying to conjure some sort of
Spirit.
or yeah, some sort of spirit and some sort of guide. So whether you do that with like a Ouija board or you're playing light as a feather, stiff as a board, Bloody Mary, all kinds of things like that. Did you own a Ouija board?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I did own one for sure.
Did your parents have feelings about it?
No, I think they were like, it is a game from like Mattel or whoever.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because for as like woo woo as I am, I kind of thought Ouija boards were bullshit. I was like,
Even
people
as a
aren't moving
kid.
them.
Yeah. Well, I had one too. And I remember many times being at slumber parties and you'd ask the Ouija a question and, everyone would swear while this thing is moving, like, I'm not moving it. I'm not moving it. Everyone's saying, I'm not moving it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Spelling out messages.
Right. And I think I just never trusted, like I wasn't moving it, but like I never trusted that the other people weren't actually moving it. Yeah. I just assumed they were.
A lot of families have very strong feelings about Ouija boards. I knew people that were not allowed to have them. And even like on one of my morning walks, this was a couple of years ago, I found one like on the sidewalk. I'm like, what happened that this landed here? Like, was this like a group of girls in the middle of the night sneaking out? Because that's another thing that we used to kind of do.
We totally did that.
To like run amok in the neighborhood. Like, did these girls sneak out with a Ouija board and they're like, we're going to play it outside on the street? Because that's something I would have done.
And then they got scared and ran away.
Maybe.
I was always like, man, if I have kids and they have a slumber party, I'm going to have an alarm system that they don't know like the password to. Mm-hmm. So that if they open the door, I'm going to know. Cause I mean,
you're responsible for other people's kids in your house.
Right.
Like it was the 80s, Katie. Nobody cared. We're like, okay, yeah, go.
Original free range parenting. So I have a funny story from a slumber party about that from middle school. I mean, it wasn't really like a party. It was like my friend spent the night.
Okay.
And she had a crush on a boy who lived down the street from us. And so in the middle of the night, we decided we were going to sneak out and we were going to write, I don't know, like her initials or maybe like her first name, like Loves, and then like his name. Mm-hmm. Something like that, super middle schooly. And I think we were going to use whipped cream, but for some reason we came across like an extra bottle in the cupboard of my dad's shaving cream.
Okay.
And we decided that would stick better, like, cause it's thicker. So we used that. Well, it has a lot of oil in it. And we did it on asphalt in front of his house and it stayed for a really long time.
I mean, it's vandalism. Let's call it what it is.
And I feel like the adults were like, did you guys do that? And we were like, no. I mean, come on.
It's funny because this reminds me of an article I came across in the Huffington Post called The Dark Side of Teen Sleepovers, where it says, terrible ideas become brighter to bored children in the middle of the night. I have more than a few stories of children who decided to do something relatively dumb in the middle of the night that they probably wouldn't have considered with the same enthusiasm in broad daylight. Groupthink coupled with exhaustion-induced delusion and maybe sugar-laden giddiness causes some to make really impulsive and potentially dangerous decisions. I would agree with that. Like, I'm not a naysayer to the sleepover. I think it's actually a really important rite of passage for young people, particularly young women. But yeah, that whole like middle of the night, we're all together. This is a great idea. Yeah. In broad daylight, not so much.
Right. And like, I mean, I think about like, I'm a full grown woman and I don't like to go outside my house.
But you did when you were 11.
Right.
Yeah, when you were 11, it was an awesome idea.
Right. And now I'm like, no, there might be somebody out there waiting to hurt me. Did you ever make like really gross things to drink at slumber parties? Like not alcoholic. you'd like make concoctions and like dare the other person to drink
Yeah.
them.
And I think that was sort of like, part of a truth or dare situation and also putting together gross combinations of food to eat. Yeah, as a dare for sure.
Right. So strange the things that you do.
I know. So do you have any, just back to the supernatural real quick, do you have any like stories related to that? Anything particularly scary or interesting that ever happened?
No, I don't think we ever had any kind of anything, which is weird because I feel like in my adult life, I've had some like, ooh, things happen,
Right.
but no, never at a slumber party. Like I think I was not really tapped into my woo at that point.
I mean,
So,
this is I'm kind of embarrassed to tell it, but I remember going to a slumber party and like, I went to a Christian school. And so we would like, I feel terrible saying this, like whip out revelations and pull out like the scariest parts and like talk about it. We used to do that sometimes.
wow. You
Yeah.
Christian girls, you knew how to party.
Put that on a t-shirt. Yeah. Timestamp merch. Yeah. So, but no, I never had any like real experiences. I don't know that we ever tried like a genuine seance necessarily. I mean, there were always girls that were like, they would swear by their experiences with like a Bloody Mary situation or a.
Or there was always somebody who was like, I was at a party and we did light as a feather, stiff as a board, and we were able to like raise her up above our heads.
There was always that girl, right? Like she swore. And you were like, really?
Like if you, in all honesty, were successful with light as a feather, stiff as a board, I want pictures and I want you to send them to our inbox.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Like people had Polaroids back then. It could have happened. Or your little like disposable camera.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You could have caught a picture.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
You'd have to send it off to be developed. But
well, okay, you touched on pranks. So I have had my bra frozen more than a few times because I was the person that fell asleep. I would also wake up to people putting my hand in warm water to see if I'd pee. Maybe I was the person at the slumber party that people didn't like. I don't know why this kept happening to me.
No, I think it's because you fell asleep first.
Well, sometimes a girl's tired. But like TPing houses, we did that up through high school. We did it all the time.
We TP'd one of our teachers' houses and he was not happy.
Was I there for that?
Were you? I don't
think so.
We had to go back and clean it up. He was very upset. I was one of his favorite students and he was not happy.
Not anymore. Not after that. When I think about what we used to do to people's houses, it horrifies me now. I can't imagine that family waking up in the morning and being like, are you serious? It wasn't even like, we don't like that girl. We don't like that boy. We're going to do this really mean thing to their house. It was, we like that boy.
Right. That's our friend. And we're going to, yeah.
Like, what do you do to people you don't like if you're doing that to people you do?
Right. And then if it was like dewy, then it was so hard to get it to come off because it was all
I feel like
clumpy.
It's the shittiest thing to do. If I have two sons. If a bunch of girls came to the house in the middle of the night to do that and we woke up to that, I would be livid. Like I have no sense of humor about this. And I was even a person that used to do it so regularly. I could drive and I would take my friend like in my car.
Yeah.
Like I was old enough to possess a driver's license and I was doing this.
Does it still happen? Like I feel like I never see houses.
I see it. And actually on the Facebook group for my city, yeah, those are always fun.
Well, now everyone has those Nest cameras. So like
that's true too. Yeah. Like people do a lot of egging and it's just so gross and it's such a nightmare and it's bad for your car.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't egg. Like, I mean, toilet paper is annoying.
Well, especially in a post-pandemic world, like I think we need to treat toilet paper with a lot more respect. You never know when you're going to need it. Don't be all willy-nilly with it.
The supply chain could get screwed up at any moment.
Lord, stop the TP.
It's strange, but we did it all the time.
It's true. So part of the pranks too are the prank calls.
Oh my gosh. Like, can that even happen anymore?
Well, with the advent of caller ID, things kind of changed. So,
right.
But I mean, that was a big part of slumber parties. It was calling businesses.
We're calling boys.
Well, yeah, it was always boys, right?
No, sometimes we would like call random numbers and, do stupid stuff.
Okay, so identity is also an important component to the sleepover. So I'm talking stuff like playing the game of MASH. There's a lot of MASH during
Mhm.
sleepovers, doing makeovers, playing truth or dare. And I don't know if you remember, we had a girlfriend who used to have, she called it the hat. Do you remember?
Oh, the hat game. Yeah, for
The
sure.
hat game. It was this hat just filled with random questions.
Right. Like we'd like write questions and like toss them in the hat.
Yeah, and it was actually really fun, like sort of like a fun little icebreaker type situation.
I still remember because somebody's handwriting was like, and this is like how young and innocent we are. One of the questions was, the question was actually, do you shave your legs? But
Oh, I
because
remember
of
that.
how the handwriting was, it always looked like, do you
Do you
share
share
your
your legs?
legs?
I remember that actually. So I remember doing like little makeovers and you would trade clothes and someone knew how to, I don't know, French braid and this person would paint your toenails. And it was just this like really fun time to sort of experiment with looks and styles and things that you didn't otherwise normally do. And so it's sort of how
Like
you,
scrunchies and caboodles, man.
oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was sort of like, trying on different versions of yourself at a time when you're kind of really trying to figure out who you are. So it was kind of a fun thing to do in a mixed group of girls, especially I think, even when there were girls that you didn't know very well, because they had different style and they had different, they went to maybe different schools. And I don't know, it was just kind of like a cool experimental phase, to be like, hey, look at me. Or this is what I want for my future, with MASH. Like, what's the biggest thing you can dream? What do you want to drive? Where do you want to live? Who do you want to marry?
It's an interesting marker of like how, I mean, we were products of like a very materialistic decade, but like everybody like wanted a mansion and a Ferrari.
Oh yeah. It was like, right. It's like anything that Barbie possessed in the 80s, you wanted.
A Corvette. And
or like, that VW bug from Can't Buy Me Love, like the cabriolet.
Oh, the cabrio.
Oh, not the VW bug, the cabriolet, the rabbit.
Mhm.
Yes. Everybody wanted it. I know I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was also a lot of freedom that went into sleepovers. I mean, I had a pretty strict upbringing and I was an only child. So, and I was a rule follower. So my parents didn't really. Yeah, it was like my parents set a rule and I was like, okay, cool, fine. I didn't really push against it. But like at other people's houses, they had different rules or they didn't have rules.
Right. There was always like that house that you went to for a slumber party and it was like, you could do whatever you wanted. Like you could eat whatever you wanted. You could stay up however late you wanted. You could watch whatever you wanted on TV. And like, you were like, where are there parents here? And I mean, there had to have been parents there.
Oh, yeah. I have to ask you because from my point of view, I found that level of freedom. It was complicated for me because part of me found that really exhilarating. Like, wow, right? And the other part of me was a little bit frightened by it. I remember just being in spaces where things were so different than they were at home for me and feeling like kind of anxious about it. Not unsafe necessarily, but like, this doesn't feel right. This feels against my better judgment. I don't really want to be watching this, but yeah, I'm curious. So I'm watching it anyway. Or I don't want to be sneaking out of the house, but everybody's doing it. So I'm going to go along with it because I don't want to be the girl who doesn't. Did you ever feel that?
No.
No, you were just like here for it.
Yeah, I think I was like up for the adventure, which is kind of how I've lived my life. I'm trying to think if I ever did something that I feel like I shouldn't have.
I mean, it's nothing bad. Like I wasn't like breaking the law or stealing, but like just a way of being or doing that I know that my parents just wouldn't have allowed me to do, and it was like the parents were like, whatever, it's fine. They didn't care or they didn't know. I don't know. I genuinely feel like in the 80s, the parents like went to sleep. If I had a slumber party now, if we hosted one, I would be awake the whole damn night because I just would not even dare to fall asleep with other people's kids in my house.
I know. It is weird. I think they totally fell asleep and we did whatever we wanted. And it's weird to think about. Like we were kind of like feral adolescence.
Well, okay. So Paula Foss, a professor of history at the University of California, Berkeley, she said by the 1980s, you had to sleep over. Otherwise, your parents were oppressing you. It was already by the 1980s, not a privilege, but a right. I think that's true.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I think about it, and like there were kids who weren't really allowed to do that.
Yes, I know that to be true. There's an article by a website called How Does She? Called No Sleepovers. Terrible, horrible, no good, very bad parents by Nicolette. So the article goes on to describe these like terrible incidents of molestation and child pornography that have happened
Oh,
like at other people's houses during sleepovers. So I mean that's the tone of the article, but it says these are obviously extreme examples of what can happen at sleepovers, but there are other things like cyberbullying, inappropriate movies, video games, jokes, or behavior that you normally wouldn't allow in your house. When kids are away from their parents, they are more likely to experiment with drugs, alcohol, sex, and plain old mischief. Okay, I guess her point is that like we do not allow sleepovers under any circumstances. We'll do a very late pickup, but we don't allow our kids to sleep over. I don't know. I mean, there were a lot of people in the comments that were like, yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I will pick up my kid at midnight. I will pick up my kid at 1, but they are not allowed to spend the night.
I mean, I'm just gonna say, as somebody who got into plenty of mischief, like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, like, I mean, if you can do it at 2 in the morning, you can do it at 2 p.m.
My mom will tell
So
you no good happens after midnight. She said it my whole life and she stands by it to this day.
nothing good ever happens after
Yeah.
2 a.m.
It's true, you know? Yeah. So I don't know. There were times though where I was just sort of like, we shouldn't be doing this.
I think the only times that I was kind of like, oh, we shouldn't do that is if there was bullying or something like that. Somebody was actively, because like, why is there always a mean girl? Like, why? And like every group of girls, and you're like, what happens at your house? Like, how did you end up this way that you're like mean and manipulative and you're so young?
No, it's really true. At every slumber party, there is a girl out to either be mean to the other girls in the group
Right.
or wants to be mean to a girl that's not at the party. Like, let's prank
Right.
call them. Let's do some sort of light vandalism to their home. Let's do something to hurt this person. And, it's really an issue today with social media.
Yeah.
In that article, The Dark Side of Teen Sleepovers, they say social media plus sleepover is a recipe for disaster. If I encourage one major sleepover rule, it's that there should be no access to social media. When social media gets involved, I often find that some types of meanness, either intentional or unintentional, ensues. I can see it happening. You get all these girls together on their phones. It all starts out fun, and then it becomes like a trolling situation or, oh, we're in this group. We're having all this fun without you.
Right. Well, and I mean, think of what we managed to do with just three-way calling.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Like there was that horrible thing where like somebody would call you and they would secretly have another person on the other line.
Yeah.
And then they would like get you to talk about
Mhm.
that other person without realizing they were on the other line. And then like, you were like a social piranha. And that was with, pretty antiquated technology. So only imagine with like Photoshop and
Oh, God.
I was going to say Facebook, but the youngins aren't on Facebook.
No, they are not TikTok.
They're like,
something's
what?
happening. Yeah. Yeah. And then you have to consider other things like for the kids that have like security objects, that makes sleepovers kind of complicated, or like bedwetting or separation anxiety, homesickness. These are all things to consider. I remember spending the night at a girl's house in 7th grade. I didn't know her very well. I was just starting to become friends with her, and she had some of her friends over. And I was very uncomfortable in that household. The girls were kind of mean. The mom was kind of mean, interestingly. I don't know.
Oh,
she decided to host she called her daughter a bitch right in front of all of us. And I was so shocked by that. And I was so uncomfortable. I called my mom to pick me up. I had decided it was no loss for me. I didn't need to be friends with them. I didn't care what they thought of me at that point that I wanted to leave. I just uncomfortable.
And like the awkwardness, just in case you're young and you're listening to this and you're like, oh yeah, I'd call my mom too. You had to go to like either the girl or her parent and be like, can I use your phone to call my mom? Because you didn't have your own phone.
I did. I called my mom and I told my mom I don't feel good. That was what I said. I told the girls I don't feel good. And my mom picked me up and she's like, what's wrong? How are you sick? I'm like, I'm not sick. I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But I think that we should play a little truth or truth because we can't really dare on the pod. We are very wired right now.
We're very locked into our positions.
Yeah. So I found in an article on teenvogue.com, the 89 best truth or dare questions and dares. We're going to focus on the truths because, can't really do the dares.
That's what we do here at the Untitled Gen X podcast. We focus on the truth.
Hard hitting journalism right here. Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. I'm a little bit tired. And I've had some cocktails.
She has had some cocktails and we sat in a spa.
I had a really pretty purple cocktail with dinner.
Oh, it was gorgeous. I posted it on social media. It was beautiful. And it's also 1 billion degrees here. So, it's been a lot of sun.
It is 1 billion degrees. I probably have mild sunstroke, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm nursing a dehydration headache right now, but it's okay because I have a cocktail. So that'll work.
Oh, good.
Okay. So, Cate, who is the last person you creeped on social media?
What are we counting as creeping?
Like going back into the history and like really digging deep.
I mean, probably I think the only people I ever creep on social media are like people who either are dating people I'm interested in or are dating people I used to date, but I'm no longer interested in, but I'm still interested in like knowing about the person they're dating.
Oh, so it's their significant others.
Right.
It's not the partner or former partner or potential partner. It's who they're with right now.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. So for me, this is really creepy. I'm gonna admit it.
Is it me? Have you been creeping on my social media?
I haven't been creeping on your social media. No. So there's this mom in my son's travel team, and she has really good style. I'm crushing hard on her style.
That's fair.
So I creeped her social media because I want to see her clothes. And I just want to see like her overall vibe.
Want to see her?
Yeah, it's a little girl crushy, but not really girl crushy. It's style crushy, maybe.
Yeah.
So I just did that recently. I don't really feel good about sharing that truth, but it is what it is. So,
I think yours is better than mine. So there you go.
Okay, where's the weirdest place you've ever gone to the bathroom?
Oh.
We actually talked about this today, oddly.
Wait, we did?
No, we just talked about like difficult bathroom situations.
Oh, I mean,
we could do a whole episode on that, but yeah.
I've had some, just so people know, I lived in a space where I had to pee outside for 3 months while I lived there.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And my boyfriend at the time called me high maintenance because I got fed up with not having a toilet.
oh God, Cate, you're such a princess.
I know. And I was like, what? We had a big fight over that one. I mean, I don't know how weird it is, but I did have to pee on the side of the road in New Mexico because I had to drive to New Mexico in the early part of COVID. And because of COVID, all of the
rest stops,
all the bathrooms were closed. I would be like, I can make it to the next one. And I'd get there and the bathrooms were closed. And eventually, I couldn't, I tried really hard. I was trying to get to the next town where there was a gas station. And I just was like, my bladder is going to explode. And so I literally, there was a little bit of a turnout and I pulled off and I peed. But thanks to having to pee outside for 3 months because I didn't have a toilet I could pee in, I'm really good at
You're
peeing.
good at it?
Yeah. So I was like, I don't even care who sees. I tried to block the view with the doors, but I was like, honestly, I just have to pee and I don't care.
Freaking COVID. Closed bathrooms and dressing rooms. Don't get me started. Okay. The weirdest place I've ever had to pee. My dad, back in the early 80s, used to work on solar panels, really large ones, like out in the middle of nowhere in the desert. And I went with him. Anyway, we found ourselves in like a locust storm. It was like really the stuff of nightmares. It was the stuff of like certainly childhood nightmares. Like it was horrible. And I had to pee. I was young. And I remember my dad having to carry me into a porta potty to go. And they were all up in the porta potty too.
Right.
It was really traumatizing. As long as I live, I'll never forget that. So it's like the porta potty itself, not so crazy. The circumstances surrounding it. Yeah, it was pretty god awful.
So true story. I think this is true for both of us. It was certainly true for me. The first time I ever had to pee outside, I was with Lori. We were
at camp.
Camp
Osito Rancho.
Yes, we were at Girl Scout camp. I think we had gone on a hike and we had to pee and we were like in the middle of nowhere and we went up to our counselor and we were like, we should go to the bathroom. And she was like, there's a bush. And we were like, what?
Well, we weren't exactly campers. Like that was like crazy.
And while I am very good at peeing outside now, I peed like all over my boots.
Oh God.
Because I did not know the fine. Like, and I tell people this all the time. I'm like, teach your daughters how to pee outside. Like, cause sons can do it without trying. Like
it's a skill.
It's a skill. And it's really like, if you can quickly and discreetly pee outside, like the world is your oyster. I'm just saying.
It is true. Okay. What is one thing you would stand in line for an hour for?
Yeah, I feel like I stand in line for an hour for a lot of things.
Well, now that question's not so like now right? You just have to wait for everything, like even to enter the grocery store. Yeah, like that doesn't seem so crazy anymore.
Yeah, like back in the day, like concert tickets.
Oh, I remember that.
Right. Like that's not even a thing anymore. Like,
yeah, like you'd be in line at like Music Plus.
I will say this. I would wait in line for an hour for tickets to Hamilton.
Oh, good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would I wait in line for an hour for? Probably a bathroom. Like, honestly.
Oh my God. Like, no way. If I had to wait an hour, like.
No, like, haven't you? Okay. An hour's a really long time. I've been at plenty of places where I have had to wait in line for a bathroom for an ungodly amount of time.
Have you ever we keep talking about where we go to the bathroom.
Yeah. What's going on here?
Have you ever gone into the men's room to pee in those circumstances?
Yes. I don't like to do it. It's awkward. But yes, I have done it. But like at concert venues and certain things where you really just can't do that, it's like I would do it at a bar.
Oh no, I've done it mostly at concerts,
like at
or
Staples.
Like
would you like go like the Staples Center and like?
No, because I usually go to like these like small like folky concerts. Mm-hmm. Like when I saw Ani DeFranco in Wisconsin, we like took over the men's bathroom.
Like, gotta go. Sorry.
We're like, you're at an Ani concert. Come on.
You don't care. It's fine. Okay. What's the longest time you've ever gone without showering?
Well, I've gone to rainbow gatherings, right? So like, that's like being out in the woods for, I don't know, 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. And
you don't shower for 2 weeks?
You're camping in the woods. Maybe like if there's a good swimming hole, you might jump in and go swimming.
Swimming hole. That sounds so old fashioned. You don't like find a way to like wash your important bits?
Well, I mean, you can do like, old baby wipe kind of thing. Like we got wise at one point and we started to bring a solar shower with us. So you'd like let it heat up in the sun and then hang it from a tree branch. And I mean, which is for sure the weirdest place I've ever showered. If we want to talk about the weirdest places we've ever showered in the middle of the national forest. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty, and when you're done, you like stop at a truck stop and you take a shower and it's like the most amazing shower you've like ever had.
Shower of my life.
It really is.
You're like luxury.
Flying J, your showers are the best.
Oh my God. That's so funny. So the longest I've ever gone without showering was at Camp Osito Rancho, Girl Scout camp.
We took one shower together because this is the problem. So the older girls, we were young and we were 8. Right. And there were like 12-year-olds there. Right. Mm-hmm. Which was like very old to us. And they would kick in the shower doors. So we would like Lori would shower and I would like guard the door and then I would shower. And Lori
Kind
would
of traumatic.
Where were our counselors?
I
Come
don't
on.
know. It
So
was
I think
a Girl Scout thing. Like, what is happening?
Like we took, I think, one shower in like the week that we were
It was
there.
not good.
Your mom must have been horrified.
Oh, she absolutely was. Okay. What is your favorite part of your body?
My nose.
You have a really good nose.
I got the genetic jackpot there. Like I got the perfect blend of my mom and my dad's nose. I don't know. For some reason, I really like my nose.
That's good. That's a good favorite body part.
Nasal pride.
My favorite part of my body, I think just generally the way I'm shaped, it's probably my waist, my stomach, because I'm very pear-shaped. So I'm pretty small on top and I'm big on the bottom, but the middle's pretty small. I'm built exactly like my mom.
You are built exactly like your mom.
I like have the exact same body as my mom.
I also feel like you have the exact same body as Charlotte from
Sex in the City?
Yes.
Yeah, kind of similar. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it's a body shape made for bridesmaids dresses. My friends tell me all the time that I should be a professional bridesmaid.
Oh,
like I look good in bridesmaid dresses. It's a very random thing to look good in, but okay, I'm here for the evening gown.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So maybe that. Last question.
All right.
What is an instant deal breaker in a potential love interest?
Okay, hold on. Let me give you a
I have
answer.
two. So if you have two.
Okay. Well, I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day that like, as much as I'm like a feminist and as much as I'm like, whatever, and like, I don't care if a guy knits and like cries and like, whatever, I'm like, yes, like you are awesome and in touch with your feelings and sensitive. But if he cannot drive a stick shift, you can't drive a standard transmission. Like I can't date you.
Really? Like that's like say he checked all the boxes, but
I mean, no, like
he would teach
I would
him.
teach him,
but he would need to learn.
But like there is something like I can't explain it. Like if I find out that like a guy can't drive a standard transmission, I'm just like, what? Are you a man? And it's so stupid. It's so
dumb, especially because anymore it's such a rarity.
Well, except the people that I date
know, like, yeah. Cate dates boomers.
I do. No, that's not true.
No, you date.
I date like the
older
end of Gen X. Yeah,
like the beginning of Gen X.
Or the beginning. Yeah, right. We're the end. I date the beginning.
Yeah, she dates the beginning of Gen X. Yeah.
I did date, I think he is a boomer.
He was a boomer for sure.
Yeah, I did date one boomer.
Yeah, you did.
He was a young boomer, but he was definitely a boomer.
He was. Just like your parents.
Yeah, so he was a young boomer, but like he had, like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Enough said.
It's fine. Now I hover around the 10 to 12 years older than me mark instead of the 20 years older than me. So there you go. Yeah. But like, what's a like legitimate deal breaker?
Oh, so you recognize that's not legitimate.
No, it's terrible. It's just a weird.
All right. Okay. As long as you know, that's fine.
It's a weird quirk that I have where it's like, it's disappointing to me when a man like tells me that he can't drive a stick shift. I'm like, wow. And it's so funny. It makes no sense. I don't know. You tell me your deal breakers and I'm going to think about it.
Okay. I absolutely could not be with a smoker. It's a deal breaker for me, 100%. I feel really strongly about that. And I also couldn't be with someone who has bad dental hygiene because teeth matter to me a great deal. So I'm not even saying like teeth have to be like perfectly straight or anything like right. Yeah. Like you need to take care of your teeth because they're the only teeth you have. So they're important. Take care of them. See your dentist.
Yes. And as my favorite aunt, who is a dental hygienist, will say, you don't have to floss all of your teeth, just the ones you want to keep.
Oh,
her favorite joke.
That one cuts me to the core because I'm not flossing tonight. I'm skipping tonight. I'm way too tired.
I floss in the mornings. I flossed this morning.
Oh, smart.
I don't know what my deal. I mean, I don't want to date a smoker. Also, like a bad relationship with your ex, like an ex who's like still making your life really difficult.
Yeah, that's hard.
I just can't. I'm sorry. So it was a red flag for me on a dating site. If a guy is like, I don't do drama, I'm like, oh, you do. Because I don't do drama and I don't feel the need to say that.
Right. If you're calling out the no drama.
Right. Then like you are involved in some drama. And it's just, I really have so little interest in drama that if there's even like a hint of it, I'm like, I wish you well. So there you go. And like, if there's drama and you can't drive a stick shift, like that, no.
And you smoke. My God.
Oh my gosh. So I do have to admit though, this is terrible. And it's very revealing of like the people I was hanging around with when I was coming of age, that there is something terribly, like, I don't know what the right word is. If a guy has like alcohol and cigarettes on his breath, there's like part of me that's like, oh, because, you know, like I was partying with people when I was like started.
Oh, so it's an attractive quality.
I don't like actively smoking, but there's something about like the mix of like just a hint of alcohol and like smoke on a man's breath that I'm like, oh, because it's like a weird, you know, it's like ingrained in my brain from when I was younger. And I used to do those things.
Yeah.
Which I don't anymore because smoking is bad for you.
I really like the smell of Old Spice as long as we're talking about it. I really do. I like it so much.
I also like Old Spice. I do too.
Yeah, I like it. I don't know.
Except I can't date a man who wears Old Spice because my dad wore it a lot when I was younger. And so it just smells
maybe that's
like
why you like it.
Dad to me.
Jack Daniels smells like dad to me, but like that sounds really terrible. I have a good dad, a responsible dad, but it makes me think of my dad. He drank Jack Daniels. Yeah. Sounds wrong, but yeah.
No, and also, what was the other thing that I was going to say? Oh, so some guy that I liked when I was like, I don't know, 18 or 19 used to wear CK1.
Okay, I found an old bottle of CK1 that my husband had. It used to be clear, right? It was clear. It was a unisex fragrance that was clear. Yes?
Right, because the bottle was kind of frosted.
It was frosted. I found the bottle. It was literally urine yellow. I pulled it out of the back of the, under the sink. And I was like, okay, first of all, like 1994 called, they want their fragrance back. Secondly, it was most certainly not pee. It was not yellow. You have to throw this away.
No, right.
He's like, I didn't even know that was back there. I did not. I just threw it away. I posted a picture of it. It's in my Facebook memories somewhere. Yeah.
So this is the thing though, like someone near where I live, like, can you still buy CK1? Like, does it still exist?
I don't know.
Because someone wears it. And when I smell it,
tell?
I'm like, because that person's face like pops into my head immediately when I smell it.
Oh, it takes you back, doesn't it?
And I'm just like,
we all wore it.
Right. Oh yeah. We all thought we were very cool.
Yeah. Also, Elizabeth Arden sunflowers.
Oh, I never wore that, but I knew a lot of people who did. And a lot of people who wore Clinique Happy.
I loved Happy. I also used to wear exclamation.
See, and this is where you can see that like I was a hippie child because I wore
You were like patchouli.
White musk, patchouli,
yeah,
and sandalwood. And still to this day, like I love patchouli, but like people have really strong feelings about it. So I don't wear patchouli very often, but I have a small bottle of white musk perfume oil from the Body Shop. And I have a larger bottle of sandalwood perfume oil from the Body Shop. And I think that they will last me until I die because like
it's very concentrated.
Like the white musk, if you put like a dot of it on you, like it's very strong. And so I think they will outlive me.
Yeah, they might. In high school, like I lived and died by cucumber melon. That scent always.
Is that Bath and Body Works?
Bath and Body Works. Yeah.
I always felt very superior that I preferred the Body Shop to Bath and Body Works.
Such an elitist, I swear to God.
Right? I'm so much cooler. I'm not going to lie. I still kind of think that.
I'm not surprised by that, like at all. Do you have any slumber parties now as you're an adult? Is this a regular thing that you do with girlfriends now?
Now, if I have slumber parties, like it's like one-on-one slumber parties. You know what I mean? Like, but they are still fun and like comforting. And now I sleep in the guest bed, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, like seriously,
It's
gone are the
no
days
more.
of us sleeping back on the floor. Like our backs can't
Right.
handle it. But yeah, I get to do that periodically with my girlfriends.
Right. I mean, it's fun to like have some adult beverages and just like hang out and snack and then be like, we're going to go to bed. And then you go get breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I find with the adult sleepovers, they're so obviously different, but like the conversation gets real deep. It gets real
yeah,
serious. Someone ends up crying, but like in a good therapeutic way. And then everyone rallies and builds each other up so much over the course of an evening. It's like there's
right.
laughing, there's crying, there's, it's just a whole range of female emotion together in your sisterhood and your pajamas. It's really lovely. I love the adult sleepover. I don't get to do it that often. I get to do it periodically, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's a fun childhood tradition to continue when you can as an
Right.
adult. I mean, obviously it evolves. Nobody's playing light as a feather, stiff as a board. I mean, we're not going to
Oh,
do
you're
that.
not?
Oh, is that what's on the agenda for
And the
tonight,
Ouija board.
Katie?
But you know what? I do read people's tarot cards sometimes.
Oh,
So
see?
we continue it. We've just like upgraded it a little
Did
bit.
you bring the tarot cards to Palm Springs?
I wanted to, and I just ran out of room in my.
Oh, yeah, you brought a carry-on.
Yeah, I was very insistent. Direct flight, carry on only.
Maybe you can read my tarot cards in a podcast episode going forward.
Maybe. Thanks so much for joining our sleepover. Remember to rate and subscribe if you like what you hear.
You can find us on the web at theuntitledgenxpodcast.com. We're also pretty social on Instagram and Facebook. We hope you keep in touch, beautiful people. Bye.
Bye.